gosh, the cringe is so bad. Oh. Oh, this was a bad idea. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Emily, and I'm joining in on a little trend I've seen going on in the authortube community, which is tier ranking the first and last lines of all my books, at least all of the drafts that I could find. This seems like an absolutely perfect way to embarrass myself. I've seen a few other creators do this. I will try to remember to link them down in the description because I had a good time going through all of the ones that I could find. If you have found any more that I haven't listed, let me know. I would like to watch them. So if we jump into the screen share here, I have first and last lines for all of the drafts of the books I've written, and then I picked 3 of my favorite short stories out of the collection because I've written a lot of short stories, and doing the first and last lines of all of them would be a lot. So I picked my 2 favorites and the favorite that everybody else seems to have, which is interesting. So we've got our little tiers here. At the very top, we have Tolkien Would Be Proud of Me. If I get to put anything up here. I genuinely don't know if I'll get to put anything up here, but it will be a nice pat on my back. Next after that, we've got Nicely Done. It's good, but it's not the best thing I've ever written. Instead of meh, instead of like middle, I decided does its job, because there's a lot of sentences that I know I write that they're not meant to be like top tier literary fiction. They have a job to do. They're not like good job, nicely done, but they're not bad. They do the job they're supposed to do. Not bad, not particularly good, so it's just right in the middle. I feel like there's gonna be quite a few things that go in here. I hope this is not the biggest tier, but it probably will be. Right beneath that we have, well, you tried at least. It's pretty bad, but you know, it could be worse. Which right below that I think is fairly self-explanatory, which is yeet it into the sun. So I went and I dug back into my folder of printed stories because, to be quite frank, I'm way too lazy to try to hunt down and go through all the flash drives that I have from my old computer. And the very first thing we have, I haven't looked at any of these other than to just go, yes, these are the things. The very first thing that I ever actually finished, which I don't even have a project title before, is this dense paragraph of things before I realized how attention spans work. I'm just going to call this Project Ian. This is my oldest story. I can't even tell you when I came up with this. I was a child. It has evolved greatly. I'm still mentally working on this story. It is a epic fantasy, adventure fantasy, and it started off as one thing, but now it is pretty much evolved into a story about a prince, and there are some magical creatures. It's a very me story. There's a lot of father figure with his child shenanigans. I have been this way since childhood. I'm just clutching my tea here because it is fall and it is chilly out and my hands are very cold. So we got Project Ian, first and last lines. I have not looked at this. This was back when Ian was not oh, that made me very dark. This was back when Ian was not the main character. He is in here, but he wasn't the main character. This story took a whole turn. It's got dragons in it though, so you know. I did look at the first line of this though, because I couldn't not. It was right there. I didn't look at the last one though, and I think I will cry. I'm almost certain. This was my first novel, and you can tell it's not very big. I think it was like 30 or 40,000 words, and I was like, it's a novel! Isn't that cute? I'm gonna shrivel into a ball doing this. Very first line. The pounding on the door in the middle of the stormy night echoes through the house, sending us flying out of bed. You know, it truly could be worse. It feels a little disrespectful calling this Project Ian, actually, because the current version that is Project Ian is so much better than this. I tried. You know, I don't know if there's anything necessarily wrong with it, but the fact that it exists now makes me cringe. I tried, but it's actually not the worst thing I could have ever written. Oh gosh, the cringe is so bad. Oh. Oh, this was a bad idea. Okay, this is so over the top. I can't. You guys. Okay, last. Smiling blissfully as well, I put my arm around Callan's shoulders and take my aunt's hand, enjoying the deep love of my family. That's so, ooh, it's cute. Ooh, it's very, very adorable. It's very sweet. Yeet it into the sun. Ooh. Okay. All right, we're fine. Everything's fine. Ew, gosh. I'm gonna move on. I will write that series one day, I'm just telling you, and hopefully it'll not be that bad. So the next thing on the list is something at the time I had titled Oceans in the Sky, which is actually the name I used for my website now, is titled Oceans in the Sky, and that is actually the old version of what became In Dying Starlight. I know I have the draft of it somewhere. I wrote 50,000 words of a draft of it back in 2015. It was my first NaNoWriMo. But I can't find it. I cannot find it. It's somewhere. You know, it doesn't really matter at this point. It's somewhere. But what I have is something called Memories at the End of Time, which was the short story I wrote before I ever wrote the draft of the novel. The short story that started it all. It had time travel. By the time that I wrote this, I had written quite a few really bad short stories, so I was better than I was when I was writing Ian's book. I'd written a lot of short stories and poetry, so this is a little bit better, but it's still back in 2015. So this is Aaron. You know, this is shockingly similar character to. He didn't change too terribly much over the years. No one spares me a look as I cross the deck of the space liner. It's so short and to the point that it doesn't even have time to get cringy. It's fine. Now, what we really gotta look at is the last line. Why am I so... I really am sappy, aren't I? I do it in my current books too. I think I just do it better. This original short story, in case you know, like, in case you want to know, is basically just about Aaron and Zane. Last line is, all is locked away, safely inside me and somewhere beyond reality. Memories at the end of time. I know you're supposed to be a little more on the nose with short stories than with books, so like the fact that I used the title in the end there is not terrible, but I tried at least. It doesn't make me want to yeet myself into the sun like the last line of Ian's book does. The very beginning of Aaron, in case you guys wanted to know, it's very cute. I don't want to ever look at it again. Okay, so next thing we got on the list is a novella that I wrote in college. I think it was probably around 2018. Again, I had been writing a lot of short stories in the meantime, so it's not like I waited several years to write anything more. I just wrote a lot of short stories and poetry, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And this novella was called Inkskin. It was a story set in the same world as Ian's, actually. It was about like one of Ian's friends, and I had given him a whole little romance arc, and I wanted to write it. I will probably rewrite this again in the future. I love these characters so much. I actually entirely forgot that I wrote it. When I was searching for the first In Dying Starlight draft, I came across the novella draft of this. I've not even glimpsed the first line. This is kind of like a little adventure romance novella about like a nobleman's daughter who falls in love with this guy who's kind of a magical creature, and he's kind of like he's like on the fringes of society, you know. He's like he's this very sweet, loving man, but this the magic he has and like the way he looks is kind of, you know, nobody thinks she should be with him, and there's a war happening in their world, so he's taking off to a different kingdom, and he's like, you want to come with me? And she goes, yes, I want to come with you. And this is the story of them. They're on a ship heading to the next kingdom over, and shenanigans take place on the ship. This is actually like one of the most wholesome, fun things I have ever written. I had so much fun writing this. I remember writing it. It was so much fun. I loved writing this story so much. So the writing will probably be cringy, but this holds a very, very special place in my heart. The ships are great beasts of dark wood and pale blue sails. The smell of the sea doesn't fully reach me until I stand on the dock beneath their shadows, the breeze bending around the hulls. You know, that's actually not bad. Would I edit it? Yes, absolutely. But also, nicely done for like 6 years ago. Oh my gosh. More than 6 years ago. I don't, maybe it was 2017. I don't know. Let's see. The last line is, there's not enough context in the last line. I will just read you the last paragraph. I haven't read it. I wonder if he thinks of his childhood when he rode with his friends across these back hills. It doesn't seem like it could be the same world we're in now. I wonder if he'll tell me all the things he promised. Tell me a story, I say, a real one, and he smiles. That's Cute. I remember that. I remember why the context of that is important. I don't know. I tried. It kind of gives me, it's a little cringe. It gives me a little cringe. It's passable. Again, I would probably keep something similar to that. We're starting off very strong with most everything in the meh categories. So next after that, I've picked 3 short stories out of All the Woods She Watches Over. It's my short story collection. I published this in 2020, and all the stories in it were probably written between, let me see, I have something in here about when the years they were written. Probably written through the years 2017 through 2019. So my 2 favorite stories in this are the first one and the last one. The first one is Our Wired Hearts. The last one is All the Woods, the title story. But the story that's like right in the middle of the book that seems to be everybody else's favorite is called Robot Dreams. I do love that story too, but it's kind of funny because I could never get it published anywhere, and it's like everybody's favorite. We can start with Our Wired Hearts. It's a piece of flash fiction about like 2 robot android type of people who kind of like want to become human, and it's very short. It's 1, 2, 3, like 4 pages long. He's the first I've seen with flesh fused in his metal hands, and he's repairing violins outside a corner shop. Listen, that does so much as a first line. It sets up the world building, it sets up like a weird aspect of it, and like the quirkiness of the fact that you've got some sort of robot at a violin shop, which is bizarre and a little off the wall. And it sets up this story perfectly. And when I thought of this flash fiction, I was obviously on something because this is one of my favorite stories ever. Let's go down to the end. So the last line is, when he plays his violin, his hands finally beginning to heal, I dance in the grass with warm, bare feet. Obviously, you need the context of the story for that. I'm gonna put it in, it does its job. I don't know, I'm just not super thrilled with it. It's fine. You know, it does its job. Literally, that's it. It does its job. Robot Dreams. This first paragraph is very me because it's mostly sentence fragments, so I'll read a couple of them. This is everybody's favorite story. Well, not everybody's favorite story. This is a beloved story in this collection from those who've actually read it. My dreams are dusk and cornfields, long shadows and swaths of leaves crisped by the sun, tilled lands and peach trees. Faces that may be important had I a memory to speak of. Doesn't really blow you away. It's got some stuff in there, but especially just like the first sentence itself, my dreams are dusk and cornfields. This is not fantastic. It's just, it kind of is. I think I remember what the last line of this is, and I don't think the last line is that spectacular either, and it is sort of funny that this story that I recognize that it's not the best thing ever, but it's like the one that everybody loves. I never told you what this is about. Robot Dreams is about this family, these parents and these 2 boys they have, and they kind of like take in this broken robot that they found. They got him in order to like help out on the farm, but he doesn't really have any concept of like how to work machines or how to learn how to farm at all, but he just becomes sort of like the caretaker for the kids. It's a little bit of a sad story, I'm sorry. The last line of the story is, he hauls me from the mud, enclosing us inside the dry warmth of the humming truck, and we're turning for home. You know, I love this story. I really, really do. It's just kind of not a very good last line. You know, well, it's not terrible. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. It's too wordy. I'm leaving it there. I'm gonna tell you the next one, All the Woods She Watches Over, I shall be a little bit biased on because this is probably one of my favorite short stories I've ever written, if not the best thing, or the best short story I've ever written. This is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, as Little Red Riding Hood is an old lady. This whole story is like her having a conversation with her best friend, which is a wolf, and there is a like rabid bear on the loose. All the Woods She Watches Over, first line is, the wolf arrives the same day Adeline buries Hugo on the edge of the woods, her boy's grave forming a raft of upturned earth between 2 trees, just far enough from the fence that he won't be drowning. I don't even care if it's kind of a run-on sentence. I got that published in like my favorite magazine of all time that is incredibly difficult to get into. I don't care. I don't care if it's a run-on sentence. I don't care. I think it made people cry, but it's not as sad a story as Robot Dreams is. I got really morbid with my short stories, all right? We're gonna go with the last line. The wolf settles around her granddaughter and tells her a story of a badger that was once a boy, an old wolf that befriended a young woman, and all the woods she watches over. Everything about that short story came together at once, and it came together in one single day, and it was beautiful, and I shall never probably do that again. I don't care if I'm patting myself on the back too much with those ones. So next after that, we have Under the Earth, which also, you know, any of my new stuff I feel like I'm much more biased about, because my baby. I love this book so much. This is a cozy fairy tale about an old fae king who adopts a little human baby. It is exactly that cozy. I have it on good authority that it makes people cry, like multiple points in the book, but it's mostly like, this is the most like heartwarming thing you've ever read, or, you know, there has been pain that has happened, but everything turns out okay type of cry. You know, it's not, but he dies, it's fine. 7 crows fly to their king beneath the earth. Their wings are heavy with snowmelt, their beaks with gossip, for there are men on the edge of the fair woods, crude weapons in hand, expressions edged with worry, and human feet have not touched the path close to the mountain in a dragon's age. I don't care. I don't care if I'm patting myself on the back too much, okay? I don't care. Last paragraph, mild spoilers. This is actually a callback to the first sentence of the book, so I don't know, maybe no, that's too much spoilers. I'm gonna cut out a bit here. 7 crows fly to their king beneath the earth. They speak of the rippling lands and their growing trees and spreading waters, of Runda's ships sailing the great wild waves, of vast deserts and the moments when the trees in the heart of the woods wake from their slumber and sing. And once or twice they bring him news of great flying beasts, impossibly like dragons, in places far and far from the king beneath the earth. They do not speak of sunlight or bring news of shadows, for those dwell within his mountain. I feel like it's not quite as fantastic as the first line, but the callback is, it's good. Ian's book is the only one that's just like, yeet it into the sun. Oh, actually, you know, I'm gonna put this down here because yikes, now that I'm thinking about it. What I'm going to do is I'm just gonna do the first and last sentence from Planetfall, which is the first novella. Just because novella 12 isn't even out yet, so I can't do the last line of the last book yet. I don't want to spoil that. I have the last line, but I'm not going to tell you guys what it is. This is Memories at the End of Time, that became Oceans in the Sky, that became In Dying Starlight. Boy, have I talked about this book on this channel. It's a cyborg space opera, grouchy cyborg bounty hunter. He's got a talking, like, half-robotic badger as a best friend, and they go off, they chase a bounty, and they end up with a bunch of humans who really aren't going anywhere, and shenanigans ensue for 400,000 words. A bright, ice-cold planet blocks the light of its star. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. The last couple of lines are, and I know who's more valuable, and who has a worse ship, easier to track and chase. We're following her? Bat asks. Yeah, I say, we're following her. That is just, it does its job. It's not really good. It's not really bad. It does its job. Yeah? Yeah. So now we're getting into something where I'm not gonna read you the last line of it, because it's not even out yet, but I am going to read you the first line of The Sea at the End of Everything. I just ran the Kickstarter for this. This is about 2 sisters who kind of have to reconnect as they take care of this strange man who washed up during a magical storm. Obviously, I am quite proud of this book as I just wrote it. There is both a little prologue thing and the actual first line. I guess I'll just read you both, because why not? Before. In a village by the sea, there are many stories. 2 sisters live along the coast. Their windows are lit with lanterns, for one is a witch the sea spat back to shore, and the other is still finding her way home. Chapter 1 is there is a broken lighthouse along the reckless side of the coast. Marin knows its shadow in the dark. That is going very nicely and nicely done. Also, I will say that the ending is a callback to the first part of the book. I really like callbacks to books, okay? I love them. The little prologue thing kind of dangles some things in that you will pick up as you read, and the first actual line kind of sets the scene pretty well, so I'm fairly happy with that. And then we have the things that I have not published yet. We have Thistle, that is my fantasy lit RPG book, which I am in the process of entirely rewriting. I have a 130,000 word draft of this, and I will be scrapping the entire thing. I will simply be scrapping the entire thing. However, I will read you the first sentence. This is actually a newer chapter 1 because I was convinced that I could sort of fix this story, so I rewrote the first chapter and edited a bunch of it. So this is slightly newer. I wrote this year, and I'm scrapping the whole damn thing. But here we go. Monsters don't attack when the sun is this high. Eli rolls over and spits blood from his mouth. His head pounds and he glowers into the edge of the rabid trees where the creature retreated. You know, I just wrote this, so obviously I think it does its job. I don't remember what the last line was of this. Since I am scrapping this entirely, I might as well just read it to you. Pointing, he asks Thistle, "What does that look like to you?" Clea bounces up and down until Eli takes great pains to lift her into his arms. Shielding his face against the sudden bright sun, Thistle stares into the distance. With a soft voice, he asks, "A city?" "A city," Eli whispers in return. And obviously that has context throughout the story, as they have not seen civilization for a very long time. I need to tell you guys what these stories are about before I start reading it. Too late. This is about an old man he's been hiding out in the mountains. The world kind of went to crap because of what his own son did to the magic accidentally. And then his grandchildren just like appear on his front porch one day, literally appear out of thin air, and he's like, now what do I do? And they have to go, you know, save the world, basically. I am in the middle. That does its job. It's not bad. It makes sense within context of the story. Story is getting an entire rewrite. It's getting a genre change, you guys. I did lit RPG epic fantasy. I'm now doing lit RPG sci-fi fantasy, kind of space fantasy, not space travel, but like sci-fi mixture, steampunk type thing. I don't know, kind of like arcane type sci-fi where there's technology that's powered by magic. Not exactly like arcane, but that's a similar thought. It's kind of steampunky little treasure planet. I don't know. It's getting an entire genre change. Last thing I have for you guys is the fantasy romance. This is a rough draft. This is an entire rough draft, okay? It's a rough draft. But I'm going to read you just the first sentence of it. I haven't even written the last sentence of it. This is a story about a girl who lives on the edge of fairyland in this little village. She finds some little fairy creatures, little baby fairy creatures, like lost on the edge of where fairyland meets the human realm, and they're like these little kitten type things. And so she takes them in because she doesn't want anything bad to happen to them. And in an effort to try to figure out like what to feed them and how to take care of them, she kind of goes into the edge of fairyland and finds this abandoned library and was like, I want to read the books. And she meets this fairy there. It's a fantasy romance. You can see where it goes from there. So I'm not going to read you the whole first paragraph because I don't even know if I'm going to keep the whole first paragraph. This is a rough draft. No one finds fairy unless incredibly lost, or more often than not, fairy finds its own victims. It's pretty good. You know, I just wrote it. Obviously I tried to come up with a good first line. I think it sets the tone for the story. I don't think it's the best thing I've ever written, but it's nicely done. That is actually a better little tier ranking thing than I thought it was going to be, because I thought more stuff would be down into yeet. You know, most of the stuff I have written, I have been proud enough to publish, and I think I'm at a point where still all the stuff I published, I am glad that I published it, so it all, you know, at the bare minimum, it kind of needs to go into does its job. Obviously, the end of Robot Dreams there, I was like, yeah, I tried. So that is my little tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me shrivel up and die reading my oldest stuff, but also kind of like patting myself on the back about the newest things. I am incredibly nosy about other authors' books, so I really enjoyed watching these other types of videos. Like I said, if you have any more recommendations of videos like this, I would like to hear them. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. All those books I mentioned published and held them up in physical copies, you can get them. Links are in the description. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!